Welcome to Practice Builders. Today we're going to talk about how we can help you acquire new patients to your practice. Is it possible to not just defend a physician or practice's reputation, but to use that reputation to proactively market the practice? Is it possible to target certain segments of the market so that you can attract a more profitable market share? Is it possible to do all this in an automated way that doesn't require more full-time employees or more outsourced expenses? And lastly, is the return on investment worth it? The patient journey begins when the patient does a search, usually from their phone or their computer. It used to be that most practices would spend a lot of money and energy on their website and think that it was great. They thought if they had an amazing website, patients would find them and their practices would thrive. However, that's no longer the case. People no longer trust websites. They don't even trust referring physicians the way they used to. Who do they trust? They trust third-party review sites and statements from anonymous people online. So a practice does need a comprehensive website, but if that is all they're going to do, then they're missing out on a huge opportunity to acquire more patients. Several years ago, we started seeing many listing sites show up online, like HealthGrades, Vitals, and WebMD. Google started gathering lots of information. When you typed a request into the search box, Google would display those results for you. This is called relevance search. A provider would simply go out to the various review sites and enter their name, address, and phone number and a link to their website. Google would guess what site was most relevant, and that would be the results they would display. Today, it's even more involved. Google now trusts their own data that they've collected over time. They created a map section for local search and list the top 3 or 4 providers they feel are properly optimized for that search query that's displayed. Google Local Search has changed the way patients find practices. The map section is called Google My Business. Since more than 70% of patients who are going to self-refer or were referred began their patient journey by doing a search, and most times they are doing that search on their phone, owning and understanding that search result and the local 3-pack on Google is a huge key. We believe it's 80% of the opportunity. So how do we help practices understand and own their presence on those Google My Business pages? And how do we get their patients to help them build that presence on those social media platforms, and in particular Google, in such a way that they can dominate local search? Introducing My Practice Reputation. What My Practice Reputation does is it combines the ability to automatically build a reputation of each practice location and physician, optimize those pages for their reputation, and then leverage those pages into ads that can be used to identify and target certain patient types. We're then able to measure where the individual patient came from and the actual revenue that patient brought into the practice through ads or the reputation. So you can see, in addition to just inviting patients to leave feedback, we can track and identify who actually became a patient and what procedures produced revenue. This process is automatic. Once the system is integrated, the staff doesn't have to do any extra work. How do you get your practice into the map section and have it be fully optimized on Google? You can go out to business.google.com to set it up. Of course, we perform this service for you, so we can fully manage everything about the listing and make sure that any system changes Google makes throughout the year are properly handled. Let's explore this page. There are 10 items that we think are critical today, with more being added every time Google does a new update to the Google My Business system. You can see on the right that we have a scorecard that says this provider is getting a score of 8 out of 10. Optimization is 50% of the reason that a page will often rank highly. If it has good reviews, then it will rank even higher. Just getting great reviews on a Google My Business page is not nearly as powerful as optimizing the page and getting great reviews. Getting that silent majority of happy patients who leave the practice having everything done that they need done to actually turn around and say thank you on social media. We make it so easy for them that they'll do it at least 10% of the time. If you can get 10% of your patients to do this, your numbers go up, your visibility goes up. A lot of good things happen organically for local search just by getting that silent majority of happy patients. So how do we do it? We integrate into the practice management system. So let's talk about the care cycle. At the right time in the care cycle, the patient is invited to leave feedback, and we're integrated into the practice management system. We get a daily automated message of all the patient encounter types. Based on the encounter type, we know what patient we should send an invitation to. If it's an annual health visit, we can send an invitation right away. However, we would not want to send an invitation from, say, an orthopedics group to someone who just had hip surgery or a hip replacement to leave feedback about their experience right after their surgery. We'd want to wait until after their second post-op visit. Our templates help define the right timing to send invitations. They're part of the integration package that we do with practices, and we will not inundate your patients for feedback. We will only send one of these invitations to a patient. The system will send a text message if it can. If none of the numbers that come through the integrated data enable a text message to successfully send, then the system will send an email automatically. We send a very simple invitation to your patient. When the time is right, an invitation will go out. It's from the doctor who the patient knows well. It shows a photo of the doctor who I know did a great job for me, and it says, "Thank you for choosing us. Would you please take a minute and leave me feedback at the link below? Signed, Dr. Jones." When I click on that link, it takes me to a one-question survey where we're careful not to ask a gating question. We're not trying to say, hey, if you're happy, leave a public review. If you're unhappy, leave a private review. We do give people the option to leave a private review, but we are simply just saying, would you provide a public review at Google, Healthgrades, or Facebook? The person can select yes or no. If the patient says no to that, maybe because they don't do social media, or they don't care, or they don't want to say something publicly, but want to let the practice know that the nurse was nice, they can leave you a private review. A lot of times, there's a huge number of very happy private reviews that come in. And as an option, you can add a button that they can check that says, yes, I grant you the right to use this in your marketing efforts. Our automated review will then plug into your website. If a patient says yes, they are taken to an option where they can choose from a list designed by the practice. In this case, Google, Healthgrades, Vitals, or Facebook. If you click on the Facebook, it opens to the Facebook app, and it takes you right to the recommendations page for the Facebook business page. Vitals and Healthgrades opens in their app. If you click the Google link, it takes you to the Google My Business page for the doctor and lets you leave the feedback in seconds. Depending upon how the practice is set up, the person will go to the practice's Google My Business page or to the provider's page. If we work with a provider and a practice, we can configure the review to 80% of the time go to the doctor's page and 20% of the time go to the practice's main page. This way, both the practice and the doctor's listing pages are increasing in reputation. So that is the simple process. We support more than 70 different practice management systems. Like I said earlier, some of our providers like to run ads along with their reputation. Since we're integrated into the practice management system, we can pull all the data on the patient referred and not referred, and we can present you with a heat map that shows where all of the doctor's patients are coming from in all different kinds of categories. In this case, I have a heat map showing where the greatest concentration of patients from the past 2 years are located, and they are private insurance. Now we can identify where the best zip codes are, and the practice does not have to guess. A second example would be that of Dr. Jones's ad. We're running an ad in 5 zip codes, so he comes to the top in just those zip codes. He's spending very little, relatively speaking, on his ads. He's running those ads 5 days a week from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. in 5 zip codes. His spend is about $20 a day on those 5 days a week, so he's spending a little over $400 a month on ads for each zip code, or $2,000 a month. The next step is taking that data and tying it to the eventual patient. So here is the list for the made-up doctor. This is a real report, but I've changed the name of the provider and patients to protect their information. The various patients called in on a tracked phone number for an ad or from the reputation page. You can see there are 168 entries in the list. Every entry has a phone number and a call-in date. Of these 168 that called in on the last 3 months of this report, 43 of them actually have appointment dates. We're also able to see the revenue expected and earned if we set that up in the system for the provider. So if we know that the average patient value is $1,000 and 43 potential patients become patients, the expected patient income is $43,000. So for $2,000 of ad spend on this initiative, the return on the investment is crazy high. So to wrap it up, there are many ways that practice builders can help you with your online reputation. It all starts with optimizing your Google My Business listing and then letting your satisfied patients shout out to all of your town how amazing you are and why they should do business with you. Doing this correctly and following the correct process will help your practice grow and thrive. For more information, contact us today at 800-679-1200. You'll be glad you did.